assessment of oversight on financial management and accountability in South Africa since the dawn of democracy. We are saying, Honorable Chairperson, since the dawn of the democracy, there has been less accountability and consequence management. And therefore, we are proposing here that there is a need for the MPEX and the PC to strengthen accountability and foster consequence management across all spheres to ensure that there are positive impacts on service delivery as well as public financial management. On a brief analysis of the impact of relevant legislation in enhancing oversight on public financial management and accountability, especially the Public Finance Management Act, the Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislature Act, the Municipal Financial Management and Treasury Regulation, also focus on amendment of the Public Water Act. In this one, Honorable Chairperson, we have said that there must be a uniformity approach on how the oversight is being conducted across all spheres of government. Lastly, on the perspective of enhanced oversight on public financial management and accountability based on international best practices and or literature review, we are proposing that, Chairperson, the legislatures need to have the following to enhance their oversight functions and public financial management and accountability. One is to have a continuous capacity building and customized technical skills on oversight. It is very important. Secondly, that these committees need to work hand in hand with other oversight committees and by inviting the chairpersons of other portfolio committees to be part of the meeting when conducting the oversight. We are also saying that there must be enough time to interrogate the annual reports and APPs by the portfolio committees to make the work of the Public Accounts Committee easier. Thank you very much.
Okay. Our apology for the, but I think all members have followed the presentation. We have agreed that each topic will be allocated 30 minutes, 10 for the presenter and 20 for reflection. And I think we must explain the reflection. More work was done in the commission. What we expected for those who were not part of the commission to make additions, enrich the discussion in line with the vision and what we want to achieve as stated. Now I will be allowing, and hence I'm looking forward for those who want to contribute. Can I see your hands? Okay, I see one hand on the side. Yes, let me first start with hands. I'm going to avoid people who will talk and respond to other people. I want hands first so that I identify yourselves, then from there we'll oh, it's only one thing. Today that throw something fast. Okay? Only one hand. Meaning, if there are no other hands, silence means consent. Just
Thank you, Chair. I think that the first thing that we need to agree on, giving also the international experience, it would seem that public accounts committees in other countries also focus on budget issues. I think there's a need to agree here that the South African situation is different because there are other committees that focus on it. So I thought I should just raise that as the first point. The second thing is that if we're to enhance oversight, there's also been another discussion around us doing oversight as it relates to FAMPLA, the Financial Management of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act. One of the things that is required there, because when you look at PFMA and even municipalities, we look at MFMA, we do oversight also on the financial management and accountability by the premium, and I suspect the national by the office of the president, I suspect, and if it's not, then there's a problem. And we do oversight on the office of the mayor as well. And unlike municipalities, don't like that. It also requires that we do oversight on the office of the speaker, on financial management and accountability. Some committees are established to do oversight. In Gauteng, there's OPCON, which does oversight on the premier and the legislature, but the general oversight that portfolio committees do. I'm talking here financial management and accountability. So I thought it's important that I raise that so that if there's a different view must be. The last thing I want to raise, Chair, is that I think if we're to enhance oversight, APAC must find a way of assessing, analyzing what came out from the commission that looked at corruption led by, now it's called Chief Justice Zondo, previously was deputy. Because there was a lot of issues about the role of Scopa that is playing and not playing well. Unless we get into that and then be able to analyze how we move forward, we might find that we're missing an opportunity. So those are the things that I wanted to add, Chair, that if we're to enhance oversight as a newspaper, we need to ensure that these three things are also, I didn't say captured, someone said I mustn't say captured. These three things are included in the paper.
Okay. Oh, now I see that.
Yeah,
Well, I was waiting, but anyway, can I see those who are having appetite to engage? 1, 2. 1, 2. Okay. Honorable Adebe.
Morning, colleagues. Thank you, Honorable Chair. My name is Becky Hadebe with an H. My name is Hadebe, not Hadebe. The whip of Scopa is a national aspect. I think, Chair, as part of enhancing oversight, indeed, we need, as an association, to have a view and stress in relation to what should happen with Zondo Commission. And that resolution ought to be cascaded down to all jurisdiction in terms of its implementation. Whether or not we're going to accept all the findings in relation to public accounts committees and how then should we go about implementing such. And what are the milestone projections in terms of monitoring progress in relation to particularly the affected legislatures, departments, and municipalities, if any? That should be a resolution and a mandate from this AGM to say, look, at the national level, these are the number of departments that have been implicated, and these are the recommended steps that ought to be taken. We therefore mandate Parliament in this regard to give us a plan, a project plan on how do they plan to deal with these issues. On quarterly basis, would expect 1, 2, and 3. in Northern Cape, and so forth, Chair. So I would propose that we really deal decisively with this matter. We cannot pretend as if it doesn't exist. The second aspect, what is it that needs to be done in order to change the modus operandi? The reason why there's not a commission, there's failure somehow in terms of us executing our work. What is it that needs to be tightened? What are the bottlenecks that needs to be addressed in relation to us executing our work? So I propose, Chair, that we have a pending resolution in this matter of state capture. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Chair. The two
Just for identification, can I request the speakers to stand up and when you okay, tell us who are you from which province so that.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you. Apologies. My name is Untitled Chapter. I'm from the South Oversight, Victoria. I wanted to make two submissions, Chair. The first one is performance information. I would like to believe that in the same way that we demand APACs from departments, and particularly compliance and submission of appropriate or critical performance information, I'd like to suggest to strengthen oversight, there must be a mechanism where we can have a systematic way of having indicators for the work that we do. How do we know when a hearing has been successful? How do we know when an oversight visit has been successful? And those matters must be predetermined so that it's not anybody's guess at the end of the year to determine whether we've succeeded or not. The second item I want to also suggest is the issue of knowledge management. In our midst, we've got as an example, we've got Honorable Pala. In 2009, I remember he was a speaker of the Malaga legislature. He's got a long history of having served in an oversight space and continues to do that. But the greatest challenge we have is that there is no process when it comes to oversight of building the successes of others that have been before us, because there's no systematic way of mining experience and building on it from 1 5-year period to another. And I think there's a lot that could be gained from an oversight perspective if we had a systematic way of mining the experience of the former mentors. Second, I also want to suggest that in the African and the Eastern cultures, we have this concept of always honoring those that have gone before us. And this honor is not a matter of we're not going to give people crowns or anything, but they have this concept of an elders' council. People that have done remarkable strides in the process, so that the ones that come in, they can, particularly if they don't have any previous experience, there is a group of people that are identified across political lines as people that have distinguished themselves in doing the work of oversight. That can be given an opportunity to share experiences so that when the new ones come in, there is no redoing and redevelopment of things that have been tried and tested, but rather there is a conscious building of the experiences of those that have been before. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, the last speaker is saw the hands at the back there. Oh,
There's another one.
okay. Limpopo will be the last one.
Thank you, Honorable Chairperson.
Yeah.
My name is Mondo Sodaba from the jurisdiction of Eastern Cape Provincial Legislation. Chair, I want to concur with Honorable Bradley because there is a case law in this regard where Parliament was condemned that something is happening under their watch, and I think we need to look into this. This is boards with an eye on it, but I want to give us slightly. I will come up with. I differ on a procedural matter because I want to remind the conference that there is a process plan with regard to zonal commission report. And I think we need a technical level, legally, and some people within the association with expertise to look how can we make an intervention. Because some of the matters there are matters under the state organs, like SIU, courts, and some, but you can't really intervene in that case. I think it's on the procedural matter. All those matters which can be lifted for oversight, then we can take them. But I wanted to raise this issue of the procedural matter. Thank you very much.
No, you'll come last. Popo. When I ask hands, can we do it, honorable members, so that we don't respond to the speakers? You are the last one, and I mean the last one. I mean the last one. You will be the last one, and Limpopo.
Thanks very much, Chair. My name is Namaron, just from the Limpopo jurisdiction. I was told that I'm the last. I don't know how your mathematics works. But I think on a serious note, Chair, just to put across the issue about the zonal commission, the legality part that my colleagues are putting across. I think the angle that we have to take, let's look at the report, but the fundamental question that arises is the question about the oversight, because there are some specific issues that there is a report isolated to say that there was a non-compliance in terms of the applicable legislation here. As and when I think the responsible portfolio committee, more especially in Parliament, they have to adjudicate over them to say these are the issues, and they have to subject those entities and departments to summon them to account to say, where were you when these things happened? How far are you? What is the consequence management that you are imposing in that regard? Not necessarily just to go into that, because there is a thin line between the issue. You can't say that the report is sub judice and you can entertain it as a legislative body. That's not how it works legally, unless it's something else. That's what I wanted to put the perspective around that issue. But secondly, the issue, I think we need to quantify how many provinces are implementing the oversight mechanism. And if there are some provinces which are not implementing that, what are the reasons? Perhaps they have to tell us how many are there, because it's a number of provinces. they're dealing with the oversight mechanism in the legislature to hold them accountable because there is a budget conduct to that. And as such, there must be an element of accountability in terms of the accountability ecosystem. And if you just leave it like that, I think it will create a serious problem. Those are my inputs that I wanted to put across. But the issue of the farm plan, I think that's one issue that I think must find expression in terms of the oversight mechanism that is there, because it is not different from your PFMA and your MFMA. It's a PFMA effect in terms of the legislation. But if you are just going on, the speaker cannot account, whereas the speaker is the executive authority that regard, and the law is very clear in that regard. Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, I'm going to raise an issue that has not really been raised. My name is Yusuf Kasman from the Eastern Cape Legislature. And we are seeing an increasing trend of the budgets of legislatures being crowded out by a bloated administration and by the increased cost of employment. And as an effect of that, there is less resources for legislature committees and for members to exercise our oversight functions. A clear example of this, Chair, just this week, the Eastern Cape Legislature was supposed to have committees conducting oversight in the Joe Garvey district. But because of the crowding out of the legislature budget, we were unable to do so. Secondly, we are now past the COVID period. And yet, the engagements that are taking place are still happening mainly in a virtual format, which is not conducive to effective oversight over the work of the officials in departments and the executive. And it's mainly because of the manner in which over the last 2, 3, 4 years, these budgets have been shifted towards bloating the administration and increasing the cost of employment and the increases that are taking place in that respect. This, I believe, Chair, is one of the single greatest threats to our oversight function, and it is a matter that we need to find a way to reverse this trend that is taking place. I'm sure it's not only taking place in the Eastern Cape Legislature. Thank you.
Thank you. Now, thanks for the contribution. I think the process that the Exco have agreed is that there was a discussion document, a thick document that have been developed and which was read to the commission to summarize and engage and issues that arise from this conference will find expression in the documents when the team led by the General Secretary put those areas there. And thank you very much for your contributions. Areas that fit and are aligned with the topic will find expression in the document. Can we move from topic number 1? Bear with me, I'm not going to call you as a sequence as the chair. I will randomly call any facilitator. Can we now call the facilitator of topic number 8? We are doing this because there are synergies between other topics. Now we want to make sure that we don't call them as per the program. Some are similar, so you must just be ready. Thank you. Thank you, Chair. The team I'm now repeating for the last time. All admin or support staff will be facilitators. When I call the facilitator, the team must come and assist so that we flag the presentation. Please. Because you take it from your 30 minutes. I've already counted 5 minutes from the 30 minutes. After this one, well, one gadget, maybe we'll break for 10 minutes so that they put all the presentation. After this presentation, honorable members and delegates, after this presentation, only one can all the presentations.
It's a long time, man. I last saw you when you were still working for a board. Been a man.
Calling people to come in for my experience, work together. But you Chair, I apologize, you fear not to be recognized. Promise to recognize. Presenting a report from the Commission topic on the role which the Association on Public Accounts Committee should play
Hello, namaste.
at the regional and global levels. We highlighted that
Conference.
the Commission noted these following areas of focus, which are very important. If you are going to understand and appreciate that to note that it promotes economic growth, it should promote economic growth, it should lead to higher revenue base as financial flows.
Okay.
Combat poverty and reduce inequalities, combat corruption and maladministration, promote investment in foreign direct investment, promote political stability and end violence, compliance with rules of law and strong institutional capacity, quality of the public service and trust in public administration. And then we move straight to the input from plenary of our commission that APAC should develop a more definite position through its global relationship, and that the global coordination should be guided by the South African international relations objectives. Therefore, the Department of International Relations and Cooperation should be consulted in order to align
the objectives that of APAC in terms of this role we are dealing with. That the Speakers Forum should guide APAC on how it can be involved in these global forums, including how APAC can make a meaningful impact inside in Africa and the Commonwealth. Any global coordination and associative relationship should yield maximum benefit for our country. That indeed there should be value for money. In other words, the relationships must be beneficial to all involved, but we will obviously overemphasize on the part of our country. The platform of engagement should be at the national level, emphasizing that point, and national to national collaboration. But however, the country must move together, which means that provinces must be afforded an opportunity to participate through interaction with national parliament, will then take their influence to the Africa and international forums. Even if Free State is next to Lesotho, that relationship has still been coordinated at national level. Although there are temptations of cooperation because of the proximity and all of that, then that's the point we're making. The state of influence and involvement in global platforms should move towards good governance. The membership of these international bodies should enhance the filter down to the respective jurisdictional PACs. After those inputs, we also want to note the concrete and direct proposals from our main presentations. We thought that is important, although summarized. And this is to ensure that all investigative reports on fraud and corruption are dealt with and consequent management is enforced. Cooperation for accounting professional institutions, such as South African Institute of Accountant, be promoted. Forward relations with the IRBA to ensure independence of the accounting professional. Proposals proceeding. Advocate for SSA countries to do oversight on extractive industries, coordination around IMF, anti-money laundering, and counter-financing of terrorism, as this is a cross-border problem. Collaboration with AfroPEC, SANCOPEC, and SADC member countries. Advocate for a broader ambit of reports and PACs that are SADC countries to promote transparency. To model the new model law on public finance management in the SADC region is adopted and implemented by all member countries. As well as fiscal management, to refer to ability of government to effectively manage expenditures and raise adequate levels of tax revenues, and this has two objectives: fiscal sustainability and ability to fund its activities from revenues and borrowings while remaining solvent, maximizing resource mobilization, collect resources optimally, of course the usage is optimized. Resources allocation in accordance with policy priorities, effectively link budget to policy objectives over the time frame longer than the traditional annual budgets. And the last one, the PACs are usually the last stage of the budget stage of the budget process. We're raising that point quite very strongly, especially for the provinces. Fiscal management requires that all stages of the budget process be monitored. And this is mainly done by finance committees which require PACs to work in collaboration with finance committees to avoid wastage and corruption. Joint existing collaboration on IFF between AFRICA and other development institutions such as the African Bank. Strengthen cooperative governance to ensure appropriate use of public resources, ensuring availability of financial reports so that oversight can take place in corruption system. Understaffing and a lack of resources to bring in external entities can pose a challenge many parliaments in Africa. That is the end of our presentation. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Whilst we are engaging all the admin staff or facilitators, please forward all your presentations to Cyprus so that they put them together. I hope you'll do that on these 20 minutes so that when the presentation is done, we use only one content here to avoid problems that we are encountering. Can we engage? I'm opening for engagement. Honorable Stemwa, see your hands. Any other? Honorable Chairs.
No, thank you very much, Chairperson. Colleagues, good morning. My name is Mkuleva, I'm Chair of the National Assembly. Chair, there's the line around National Parliament, one with the other coordinating international interaction. And this is not in any way a protest of us that we don't want the job. But I think the decision that conference must make in this regard is important in the sense that the coordinating body of public accounts in the country is APAC and not Parliament. And so when we are at SADC and other international interactions, the delegations of the country are led by APAC. It of course does cause a confusion when we interact with other parliaments, particularly because some may not have PhDs in legislatures and so on. It's a whole complicated and complex economy wherever we interact. Having said that, Chair, I think whilst the delegations and work is done by APAC, there is a need for a greater collaboration of APAC and national parliaments in handling these things. So I think the fundamental area of clarification is who takes the lead. Because as things stand now, national parliament is the jurisdiction which subscribes to APAC. So it's not the other way around. So that clarification needs to be there. And as I was saying, it's not a matter of us not wanting the job, but it's a matter of us staying in our lane. And when we are given a responsibility, we gladly take it. Because the final issue is that even on international engagements, the international parliament does, there is a role in parliament responsible for the which we have to work with. So it becomes layer upon layer of, I won't say committees, or structures that we need to do. So we are given a responsibility, can it be clarified within the parameters of how things are currently structured? Thanks, Chair.
GS, then AG.
Yeah, Chair, thank you very much. I think Honorable Stemwa, I read my mind, because this has been an issue even at SADC, and we clarified it. So I won't repeat, but I just want to say you're not abdicating responsibility, you're putting things into proper perspective. The second thing I wanted to raise, Chair, with my hand was, I'm very concerned that we seem to equate oversight on public financial management and accountability to accounting profession. For me, those are two different things. An accounting profession is accountant. We are a political structure as parliament. Our responsibility is oversight, not on accounting, but on public financial management and accountability. So I wanted to suggest, Chair, that there was a suggestion about site and that we promote accounting profession. I don't think it's our responsibility. Therefore, they are starting to do that. We must be about promoting public financial management and accountability, even at international level. That's what I want to propose. Thank you, Chief.
AG. Okay. AG, it's covered the 2 points, and I think one similar from both the National Assembly and APAC, GS. I think we experienced that problem. Actually, we didn't experience the problem when we were at Zimbabwe, but I think there was leadership was provided, and we just need to deal with clarification, and I think National Assembly is better placed. Thank you very much, Honorable. We're spot on. The next topic will be topic number 2. Who's the presenter? Was Eric?
Yeah, we knew this.
Only those 2 points.
No. Hey, I'm writing a report. Where's all the job? The reason it was 3 minutes. What do you say? What do you do? It's for editors, presentations. Oh, so notice that too. It's fine. I'm going to make a plan. Yeah.
Good morning, honorable members. My name is Durban, and as I was chairing this session, is dealing with topic 2, which is about strengthening the role of Public Account Committee for enhanced oversight on public financial management and accountability, which deals with an assessment of mandate of banks or public account as in terms of the various households. Now I'm going to be just reading through areas of the objectives that we've dealt with, as well as the proposals that were raised in the session. Of course, the objective of the area of focus was to provide an assessment of the functions of public account as defined in the various house rules of the legislatures, and to propose intervention to enhance the roles of this public accounts commission. Now, we all know that historically, all the public accounts committee only became involved, they always get involved in the 4th and the final phase of the budget cycle after an audit. Of course, over time, this role has evolved, and in the main, public accounts conduct ex post factor, that is after the fact of oversight. However, as the time goes on, various legislatures and parliament have started evolving to conduct in-year monitoring and even conduct ex ante oversight. Now, the proposal that we are making was that there must be better coordination with internal and external audit committees, wherein those committees are required to provide SCOPA with quarterly reports. The department or entities will be required to provide consequent management plans on a quarterly basis. And the Auditor General of South Africa must, when sending a status of record review to the department on monthly basis, also send it to SCOPA. In-year and post-intervention monitoring must be strengthened. We also felt that there must be a strengthening of partnership with Chapter 9 institutions, NGOs, and law enforcement agencies, and further invite them to SCOPA meeting. We must also provide an analysis of the effectiveness and relevance of functions of public account committees as defined in the various house rules of the legislatures. When it comes to the mandate, it was felt that a review of the rules of the various legislatures and the scrutiny of the APAC 2010 best practice report also indicated that the rules of most legislatures are very similar in nature and they are actually congruent with each other. Of course, I'm not really going to dwell on those. We might be familiar with them in various jurisdictions. Now, also, one of the objectives that we also dealt with was that on proposals, the other second proposal we made was that the rule must be clear that gives SCOPA the mandate to conduct oversight on the office of the Speaker. There must be clarity on the
Are you winning? Yeah. The problem is that SCOPA is not here who could be using his.
And also needed to provide an assessment of the capacity of public accounts to implement both ex post facto and ex ante oversight, including the capacity to exercise.
One day see, but I don't think he's. Yeah, I've spoken to him. But if you asked him to bring his.
However, we have experienced that despite the clear articulation of public mandate, legislatures fail to effectively hold the executive arm of government financially accountable. Members must ensure that Parliament and the legislature can detect discrepancies in the expenditures and service delivered in advance before the end of the financial year to facilitate the process of intervention and implementation and implementing resolution to any challenge that may be uncovered. Unfortunately, in some cases, Parliament and legislature public accounts committee has not managed to embed and automate in-year monitoring and evaluation. Public accounts unfortunately remain dependent on waiting for the Auditor General reports, annual reports, and financial statements that are formally referred prior to processing intervention and implementing resolution to any challenges. It is evident when the Auditor General tabled the Auditor General report on 2020-21 on national and provincial audit outcome. This outcome demonstrated that in some departments there are some improvement, and in some cases there's still a lot that needs to be done. On the third proposal, felt that there must be reconciliation of financial statement by the Public Accounts Committee in the manner, in a form that provincial treasurers must submit quarterly reports of department to the public account to assist with the management of accruals. Auditor General must play a stronger role to build capacity within SCOPA members and support staff. Auditor General must also provide SCOPA with an analysis of generic and strategic weaknesses cases within the departments and entities. SCOPA must appoint an incumbent with specialized financial and audit qualifications. Thank you very much.
Okay. Another round of applause. Okay. Engagement edition. I think this one is straightforward, but let's see something that we want to add. GS. Maybe we didn't put the house rules. The speakers are those who are at the front only. There are no other meetings here. Maybe we must, I think now it become a trend that when we are busy engaging, there are other people engaging with other things. I don't know, and part of us. As I mean the conference, can I just call you to order, honorable members and delegates, that we are here to focus on one work to build APAC and to enhance oversight role. And make sure that when we go back to our respective jurisdiction, we come out with something from this conference. I'm just appealing to yourselves, and I'm not going to quote anyone, but I think we must focus. Jess?
Thank you, Chair. Just two quick things. The first one is, I think it is important that when we take decisions on the work that must be done, we shouldn't take decisions on behalf of other bodies, because if those decisions are not implemented, you won't be able to account for it. But we must take decisions on what we are going to do so that we can be able to carry them on account. So I see there's lots of work that is said that, for instance, the AG must train. And I think we must do it differently. We must say APAC must engage the AG on training, because then APAC must come back and account with the training. I think that's the way in which we take it. The second one, some of the things that are in the rules or are not in the rules, I believe that can only happen if we clarify them. As an example, we've already said here, because there's a problem in some of the legislatures about the offices of speaker reporting or appearing before the Public Accounts Committee, we say you recommend that the rules must be clear about that, which is a mistake. One of the problems we have in some of the legislatures is the relationship with the audit committees, which are established in section 78 or something in the PFMA, and I can't remember. Some have reported that the audit committees argue that they are accountable to the executive authority, not to the legislature. So they don't want to come to the legislature or to Public Accounts, but they want to send their reports to the executive authority. So I'm saying that maybe what we need to do, we must find a way, the way we come to resolution, to say there must also be an engagement. I think National Treasury is willing to assist in that. So we might want to engage them to put a regulation or something that will make clear, clarify the point that they can send their reports to the Public Accounts Committee. But in other areas it happens. So I'm just saying so there's uniformity, that's what we have. Thank you, Chair.
Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Problem, I talk a lot. Chair, just a clarification, because I think the issue about jurisdictions is important. That, for an example, Scopa National Assembly does not have jurisdiction over the financials of Parliament, so of National Assembly and NCOP. Is the Joint Management Committee which deals with the FMPLA. So my suggestion is that in areas where there is different arrangements for the speaker and so on, Gauteng has got Opol, for an example, that APAC make it a deliberate effort to engage with those committees insofar as the oversight and management of the Parliament and legislatures is concerned. Because the difficulty that we may have is we will come out here with suggestions and resolutions which may not be implementable for certain jurisdictions. But I think the way around it is to say where there are already structures which have been given that responsibility, they'll be called, they're not called in, but work with them to do that. The second point is, and I'm sure also was already here, he chairs the standing committee on the Auditor General. So we've got this conveyor belt of committees, which I think which APAC must be accessible to, and they must be accessible to APAC because they've got specialized, defined roles in terms of what it is that they can do. So really motivated that the structures that are already in place may be very difficult to replace, but there is nothing stopping us from engaging with them. So I'm suggesting that we pull them out and they be factored into the bodies upon which APAC will be working with the oversight units to do. Thanks.
Okay. I think this is the only issue, and I think for us to operate, not to operate in silos, because our experience as APAC is that other provinces, speakers are accounting to public account or scopers. Others are referring to standing committees like Honorable Fengwa raised, and they said they are accountable through farm plan. And it has been a problem. The reason why we want to be uniform, as GS indicated, is that we must propose that different jurisdiction must make sure that we, in fact, put that area in our standing rules, because in some instances the standing rules are clear, but individual legislatures refuse, whilst the standing rules say you may hold them accountable. And I think it's an issue that maybe we will need to, the technical team will need to work with National Assembly and the team GS, so that you synergize the approach, so that maybe there must be a uniform approach. The intention of APAC is to come out being operating in a uniform way, so that we don't allow others to go left whilst the others are going to right, and that will create a problem. I think we have exhausted. Yes, thanks very much. Can we give this topic another round of applause? Okay. The other arrangement, unless honorable, maybe tea was supposed to be arranged for 11 o'clock, but they have moved it to 10:30. And I'm looking on time, it's 25 past. Now we'll break for tea for 20 minutes. And we come back, all of us, exactly 10 to 11. The topic number 4 will be an podium. And I'm requesting again, when we say 10 to, the leader of delegates are jurisdiction. Please, 10 to must be 10 to. All leaders of delegates must ensure the delegation. Let's break for 15. Thank you.
I suspend you. Those two additional. I know it done.
Yes, you want them to sign in, CC me.
I send you. No, have a look at it.
Okay, send it to me.
Yeah, it's at the
Yeah, send it to me now.
laptop. Have a look at it and then.
jurisdiction outside of this opportunity. Can you take us through Honorable Kajan? Thank you very much. Eligibility. That is topic 4, and as it relates, repositioning APAC to enhance political oversight on public management and accountability. But now the key here, an assessment of APAC objectives. So we dealt with the objectives. The paper will be forwarded that gives you the background, the problem statement, and in details. But here we focus on the objectives of the paper. Now, the first objective, which is to promote sound, accountable, and transparent governance. And we are saying, yes, APAC needs to strengthen the structures of APAC's oversight by ensuring that they set the right tool and implement consequence management, in which will in turn make the objective visible and realizable. So that is our preposition. Now, the second one, improve the quality and performance of public accounts committee in South Africa. And now we are saying this improvement of expenditures can only be achieved by APAC once it starts to encourage the implementation of consequence management. So the two objectives, we are saying without consequence management, those objectives won't be realized. We have the power, we are empowered by the Constitution, also SCOPA, also AXA, we are empowered. Let's utilize that and make sure that there is consequence management. Number 3, that objective, improve the capacity of individual members of committees to function more effectively. We're saying, yes, it is prudent that the association must capacitate its members rather than, which becomes the key, delegates the task to remote individual legislation. So as the APAC, let's take a central role in dealing with this particular objective. 4, facilitate the exchange of information and views relating to work of public accounts committees and discuss matters of mutual concern and interest. We're saying promoting welfare is regarding public protection or information sharing is important to enable preventative intervention. In here we also sponsor it. That is very key in really dealing with this particular objective. Now, live action to promote the effectiveness of public account service in South Africa. And we acknowledge that there is a professional relationship between APAC and AXA. However, there is a need to start implementing resolutions that are taken. That's the implementation part. Number 6, liaise with the law enforcement agencies and similar organs to ensure that APAC is effective. So there's a need for the implementation of the recommendation by the executive authority, which currently is a missing link to ensure the realization of this APAC objective. 7, pool resources and share experiences to benefit all concerned and best practices in public accounts committees within South Africa. We're saying the ability to pool resources and share experiences has been lacking since APAC, that's the underlying bit, is seen as a voluntary association. So we need to take that concept, we need to place it correctly, and therefore there's a need to position APAC properly and make sure that it executes this particular objective. 8, communicate and build relationships with individuals, organizations, forum, knowledgeable about matters of concern to public accountability. So it is recommended
that the association partner with various academic institutions, bodies such as Finance and Fiscal Commission, Public Service Commission, SALGA, National Treasury. That has been linked also with other topics that there should be this kind of a relationship. Now, the last objective, which is to provide information to elected representatives, the media and public regarding the purpose and activities of public accounts committees. Now, APAC should improve in its transparency by providing regular information to elected representatives, media, public regarding the purpose and activities of APAC. So information should be provided frequently and not as and when there are public meetings. But now further, there were these additions that were made to say APAC should consider strengthening its relationship with the Speakers Forum of South Africa, as this will have positives, mainly because speakers of all legislatures and national parliament are represented on the forum. Working together with the Speakers Forum will enhance the work of APAC as well as individual PACs. Now, the second one, tracking of previous resolutions of APAC conferences and present progress reports on their implementation. Okay, tracking of PAC's resolutions, which are tabled in the legislatures as to whether they are being implemented and what progress have been made in the implementation of those. 4, collaborate with other bodies that I've just mentioned, just to enhance APAC as well as the individual PACs, such as the MPACs, portfolio committees in the legislatures, national information treasuries, law enforcement agencies in the form of SIU, as well as Chapter 9 and 10 institutions. Lastly, develop a media strategy and establish a media team that will be publicizing the work of APAC, PACs, and its executive committees. So these are the recommendations from the team based on this particular topic. Thank you very much.
Can I see your hands? Okay. All covered. Okay, I see the hands that side.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Adriana Randall. I'm from Scopa in the Gauteng province. Thank you. I totally agree with your additional recommendations, Chair, but when it comes to, and our chairperson will agree, we've always been looking to get stakeholders to get, to be interested in what we're doing. I haven't seen anything about existing databases. How are we refining them? How are we adding on to them in terms of new stakeholders? Do we have a base that we're working from when we invite stakeholders? Do we review that database often? And Chair, together with the media plan, I think a communication strategy would also be, to our advantage. If we can then have media plus a communication strategy that will effectively get our message out there, what we are doing, how are we benefiting the people, the taxpayers, our people on the ground. So that's the 2 points that I just wanted to raise. Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you, Chair. There's a matter I want to raise, but maybe it will be better raised when the committee on, or the team that's focusing on our relationship with other committees. It's about what they propose about expenditure, but I'm raising it. The next point I want to raise, Chair, is this view that we must be able to do training and collaborate with other bodies. I think there's one point we need to take a stand on. The legislature, the Speakers Forum, has created the South African Parliament, is parliamentary institute or parliamentary. I think we need to engage that. One of the problems we have experienced, and I think those of us who are from municipalities will agree with me, even us in the legislatures, when there's election at the beginning of the year, there isn't a specific program focused on members of public account. It's general for everything. And there's a need for us as APAC to assist in developing that kind of training so that it's specific to all of us. So I think the parliamentary stream is important in that regard. And I think that, Chair, maybe there's a commission that's linked to our relationship with also the AG. We must agree whether we want to liaise with them or cooperate. And I would argue that we cooperate because of the strategic role of the Office of the AG. And then, Chair, the point that they raised about APAC, it's very important because APAC, whatever we're deciding here, in the way APAC is structured, we can't force the jurisdictions to implement. We're sharing best practice, we are agreeing on what needs to be done. We can persuade them, but we can't force because we're a voluntary organization. So it's important to stress that point. We might want to discuss it later. The other thing I want to raise, Chair, is that on the providing of information, the difficulty with it is capacity to get MPEGs and other public accounts committees to feed information to APAC so that we can publicize it. For instance, you see the WhatsApp group that's created for us. If you are sending a message, you can follow APAC on Twitter and Facebook. But not the problem to get information there. So yes, we'll see in the report that the AGM is a media work, but we'll talk to them last. The last thing I want to raise, Chair, is about tracking of resolutions. I agree with tracking of resolutions of APAC, that's fine. But it's going to be difficult if we expect APAC to track resolutions that are taken in the different legislatures, unless the resolution says each public accounts committee must track its own resolutions. Then it's fine. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. It's in the hands, I hope it's allowed.
Thank you, Chair. Also from the previous speaker just actually touched on the point that it speaks to number 2 and 3 in the presentation, but specifically on resolutions and the tracking rate. And I realize what the previous speaker said about APAC cannot be responsible for tracking resolutions in scope as an impacts. But can we not, from APAC's side, have a uniform way to deal with, or a system, or a step-by-step process, or to make it easier for public account committees to track our resolutions? Because it is a huge frustration. We came up in the commissions yesterday, in more than one of the commissions, where resolutions are taken, but it's not implemented by the executives. So can we not, from APAC's side, look at some other system, almost like the recipe book, to say this is the step-by-step approach to ensure that resolutions taken are implemented, either by lobbying speakers for it, or by lobbying other stakeholders, but to make sure that our resolutions are implemented.
No, I think all points are taken, but bear in mind that APAC can coordinate, cannot instruct individual jurisdiction, because it's upon your jurisdiction to ensure that you take the advice that APAC is giving you and ensure that you follow processes in ensuring that you put all those areas in your jurisdiction through your standing committees and the process of individual jurisdiction. But key amongst all the proposals here, which I think it was not there before, I think we have seen one area, shares of KZN, where KZN put something from their jurisdiction regarding the work that KC is doing. The intention here is to make sure that all public account committees, all scopers, are putting their activities in the website that will be developed or social media of impact so that we publicize the work done by all the jurisdictions. Because there are other jurisdictions that are struggling to have their own communication strategies. Some are assigned 1% of communication from the whole legislature, not assigned to public account or SCOPA. I think the only people who are advanced may be National Assembly and maybe Gauteng, but the rest you share it with other portfolio committees. If you are having meetings, 3 meetings, they will choose where to go, and SCOPA become critical. And I think all those areas have been captured. We appreciate the work well done by the Commission. Another round of applause. Can we go to topic number 3?
The chair is putting undue pressure to the temptation. Only colleagues, I am still being active with age and all protocol observed. Chair, welcome. We missed you yesterday. I understand your position.
I don't know if the Western Cape, but your disruption is annoying. And it's a last morning. Can we be in one meeting, please? Jurisdiction must respect the conference. Please. Thank you.
But thanks, colleagues. The mother state in my province, you have been warned. It's a final warning. I'm just saying. Colleagues, this is our topic. We were tasked to deal with the strengthening of collaboration with Auditor General of South Africa for ethical public financial management and accountability. And the objective for us was to propose action to be taken by all Public Accounts Committee in collaboration with the Auditor General of South Africa to drive efficient, effective financial management and accountability at all levels of government and legislatures in South Africa. We also provided a focus area. As you can see, the first focus area, and in our deliberation, we have said the AG of South Africa has more power in terms of irregular expenditure, but does not make use of them, as per the Public Audit Act. We're also saying that monitoring and evaluating, which seems to be lacking in all parties. So all parties who are part of the ecosystem of accountability, there is a lack in terms of monitoring and evaluation. This is the second focus area that we had to deal with. And in this regard, the executive authority are called upon to account, but the analysis show us that the implementation of resolution taken by the Public Accounts Committee are not taken into consideration. And the challenge in this regard is that we don't have a recourse as Public Accounts Committee when the executive authority, be it ministers,
MECs in the Western Cape. We have provincial ministers. We don't have a recourse in this regard. The issue of monitoring and evaluation, which seems to be lacking on all parties, which causes repeat findings in cooperative years due to the lack of accountability in the ecosystem. So if we are failing in terms of monitoring and evaluation, we contribute to repeat findings. The third focus area, we are saying the implementation of Public Audit Act has not come into light. The expectation is when there is irregular expenditure, where the accounting officer must make follow-ups. The AG must assist the Public Accounts Committee with progress made in terms of irregular expenditure that has been identified. And as to whether money should be recovered from the accounting officer, there's no consequence management on the relevant officials. So in this regard, we're calling upon the AG to ensure that they assist us, especially where officials have not been called to account, that money has to be recovered from the relevant accounting officer. The Public Audit Act is clear, but the progress is very, very low and slow. The proposals that we have made in this regard, as you can see on the screen, we are saying the Auditor General must fast track the issue of MIs. Given the challenge that the AGSA and Public Accounts Committee are experiencing on accounting officers who are doing as they wish, and they are recycling from one department to the other, we are proposing that there must be a law that supports the blacklisting of such, and a database should be developed in this case, so that we blacklist those accounting officers who move from Macaulay district, they mess up. I'm just making an example of the district that came to mind. It's not necessarily a true reflection of what I'm raising. You'll find in Buffalo City, we can't afford the recycling of those that are collapsing on municipalities. Call upon this house to take a resolution of ensuring that we blacklist such people. We are saying that the Auditor General should be invited to oversight visits of the projects that will be undertaken, aiming them to cover all problematic projects on the ground during the audit instead of focusing on one project. This was the proposal sponsored by the National Assembly. Chair, I've made a statement that when we defined our relationship with Auditor General, we used to say we are in a polygamous relationship, and Auditor General is our first wife. And wherever we go as a National Assembly, in terms of our oversight, our first wife is always with us. And whatever the first wife says stands, and it's a gospel truth. The other wives, National Treasury, SIU, matters less, but our first wife takes priority in terms of our work. So we want you to also adopt and inculcate the culture of taking Auditor General with you in terms of oversight work. Now, recommendations that came after a lengthy of deliberation and discussion were saying the association must prioritize non-performing jurisdiction in terms of supporting them. We've made mention of Northwest in terms of the audit finding and the data available to us, that it appears as if they are the most performing province and fiscal years. So APAC must prioritize those non-performing jurisdictions. Chair was applauding it. Managed to pronounce the word jurisdiction. I always have a problem with PAN. Now you understand why 100 is without the PAN, it's an H. Because in Zulu, the PAN. Iran. moving right along, was saying the chairpersons of portfolio committees should be invited to public accounts meetings so that as and when items are discussed, chairpersons of the specific department can make follow-ups on whether the department has made progress or not. It can even go beyond chairperson, it becomes the entire portfolio committees. So public accounts committees need not to isolate themselves in dealing with issues that affect the portfolio committees. Invite them in, have joint committees, deal with issues, and whatever follow-up that needs to be done, they will have to act accordingly. The other recommendation is that the use of consultants need to be regularized in the sense that the principle of funds follow function is followed. The consultant should be paid after services has been rendered, depending on the audit outcome. A holding fee should also be introduced so that they produce the negative result that fees will be forfeited. So if you appoint consultant to do the work, and in terms of the terms of reference that we have signed with them, they don't produce and deliver as expected, they should forfeit their fee. That's the proposal I'm putting forward. There must be a system in place that can help fast track the implementation of AG reports so that the following year they must be able to report on progress made, and if not, there should be an indication what further action that needs to be taken. The implementation of constitutional mandate needs to be strengthened and enforced. Coordinated oversight and strengthened consequence management to be fostered in terms of accountability. We need to focus on appointment of the right caliber of people, skilled and experienced. And in this case, I want to stress qualification does not amount to competence. I'm a project manager. I'm a qualified civil engineering technician. I have practiced less than 10 years due to my political endeavor. That doesn't make me an expert in civil engineering. It's just a paper. So we need to guard against overqualified people who are not competent to do the work. So as public accounts committee, we must focus on the right caliber of people. As long as we are able to differentiate that qualification does not automatically means that you are competent. After you've appointed them, give them space to lead and implement priorities without interference. Do not interfere with the work of the official. There's a thin line between interference and oversight. Allow them space, and then once you have appointed officials, please allow them to serve their tenure. Don't in the middle of their term of office, because now they don't have to it just this. You want to suffocate them and terminate them. Allow AGSA to audit so that we can ensure credible reporting on performance. There are areas where AG is threatened. There are no-go areas in terms of the audit. Please, let's work towards creating a conducive environment for Auditor General SA to do his or her work without fear of failure. Let all public accounts committee perform a rigorous oversight. Once you've allowed the officials to exercise their functions without interference, then you have the right to ensure a vigorous oversight, because there won't be an excuse of interference. Does this term take away that the auditor is based to say capability enables accountability? Can I hear amen? Amen. Capability enables accountability. And I further went on to say, you cannot manage that which you cannot measure. Now, in closing, we are saying the Association of Public Accounts Committee needs to coordinate and encourage all role players who conduct oversight to work in unison instead of operating in silos, thus strengthening collaboration with Auditor General of South Africa for ethical public financial management and accountability. Public Accounts Committee must request the post-court action plan, which addresses all issues by the Auditor General of South Africa and the plan to resolve them. Thank you so much. That's my story and I stay to you. Thank you.
Okay. Let's give them another round of applause. Okay. Can I see it? And yesterday when in this commission we were there and when Northwest was mentioned, someone tried to defend him. I said, well, it's a fact. Can't defend that we are bad before progress. We need to come out here and making sure that it's all well. Okay. That's why we're here. Let's hear it. And I like what AG raised yesterday. And I quote AG, you will never defeat what you don't know. And I think when AG was raising this thing, and I just look around the room there, and that quotation may be taken in as Northwest. Can I see your hands? It's a straightforward one, but proposals are straightforward and are covering all of us, but let's not be quiet. I see, let's start with the NAMPEC and we'll go to KZN Honorable Gavenda. At the back there, it's okay. In that order.
Thank you, Program Director, for this opportunity. Protocol observed. My name is Untitled Chapter, representing NAMPEC. Chair of the session, I just wanted to add, perhaps, because what I see, and I think it has been omitted all the time, we've spoken about it, but it was just in passing, is the role of the audit committee and the internal auditor. We are, all of us sitting here, we are part of the assurance body. AG is the critical part of the insurance body, audit committee, and the internal audit. Now, one thing that gets us together is the annual report. And the audit committee has that annual report, it's got its section there. But yet, in the form of scheme, the audit committee is nowhere to be found. And I think it's about time that we get the audit committee to be part of this assurance body. And hence I propose that when the annual reports are being tabled, and when we are also talking about oversight, we bring the audit, as particularly in the annual report, we bring the audit committee in. I think.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, just 3 points. The first one is around consultants. I think our position is that ideally we ought not to have consultants. Rather, there should be the issue of growing your own timber. But we do accept that particularly in municipalities that are under-resourced and other areas such as that, the issue of consultants becomes a necessity. because there isn't the necessary capability. However, what we ask when we, as SCOPA, meet with entities and departments is whether they have factored into their contract with consultants the issue of capacity building, so that there is that element, so that when the consultants go out, they've actually been obliged and paid for to train whatever they leave behind. We think that's important because we've seen this perpetuation of consultants who like a permanently employed if you don't have that. The second point, Chairperson, is around, and I think in order to get officials, etc., up to speed, is we must insist when we meet them as a public accounts committees about getting an update on the signing of performance agreements by the due date, by senior management in particular. That's important because you can then hold them to account. The second thing is the issue of the signing of financial disclosures of senior management and their families, the disclosure of that, because that deals with the issue of doing business with government, which is out illegal. And the last one is the verification of qualifications. We need to ask departments when we meet them. We want evidence that you have verified the qualifications of those whom you employ. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Mr. MK? How think it's not responding?
Actually, it's
you made your point. You are the last. Mr. MK, can you stand up and
no, thank you so much, Mr. Chairperson. Actually, I'm from the Office of the Auditor General.
Okay.
It's Kona Manzani, that's my name is Salim. So what I wanted to just share is the issue of capacity building in terms of the understanding of the MI processes to the PACs specifically, because I think it is going to be key for them to have a full understanding of the process of the MI. As we have recommended to say maybe the process of the implementation of the MI might be slow. But what I'm trying to check is if the PAC itself, the provinces and also all the regions, if we have been taken through the capacity building in terms of understanding the process at its entire, the MI process at its entire. Thank you so much.
Okay. Okay. No. It must be on the record. Let's be patient. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a question, in terms of management letters, won't you think that the availability to SCOPA members, because we never see them, we are being told it's too voluminous. Why can't that not be used to strengthen collaboration? Why is it withheld from SCOPA? Thank you.
Okay. I think all the points will find expression. There will be addition of the submission, and I think the question that AG raised, because the topic is collaboration between ourselves and AG, and we must take it up with AG, GS and the office bearers, that where there are jurisdictions that are lacking, what AG is raising on capacity or workshop on the MIs. That can be done. But the point here is that when this commission was raising the issue of material irregularities, they understand the processes. What they are raising here is that the process is good, but the problem is slow. Where I come from, one of the municipality was a project from when the public account, the public audit
Act was, the amendment was done. Up to now, there are no implementation. That's the point. Always the accounting officer will move and promise and promise and promise, nothing is actually done. I think the office will deal with that part. And I think the one of the consultant also, like Honorable Kavenda is raising, will be addressed. But here the point is the age is saying sometimes appointment of consultant is for compliance. Late appointment of consultant without giving them a report, and it's deliberate, and give them 46 or any amount of millions without giving them. But the problem of skill, where the consultant is supposed to provide capacity on people that are on finance unit. You can only do that to people who can be trained. But for people who are trainable, what capacity are you going to put on this? It's another problem of skill audit, which I think the commission was reflecting on that matter. And I think generally all areas have been covered. I don't know, yes, I see you raise your hands.
No, there's a point I wanted to make when I was called. If it's been made, please call me to order. I think that we seem to understand this thing of amended Public Audit Act and this thing around the material irregularities as the responsibility of the AGM. I think that it's a wrong approach in that because we're supposed to also play a role in that, in ensuring that that happens. In fact, I will keep on raising that. I think that the fact that you've got that act that now gives the AG that responsibility is in true sense of the word a reflection on the weaknesses of oversight by us. If we do oversight effectively, that role would not have been the role that the AG must play. So the argument I want to raise that, yes, now that there's an act, the AG must do the work, but we've got the responsibility, even before the AG reports, to go to departments and say, how far are you with implementing what the AG says as it relates to it? And that we can also go even beyond what is covered by the AG, because there's lots of other irregularities, that might not be material. Or in our in-year monitoring, we can be able to deal with those matters even before the AG makes the finding data. That's the point of it.
Okay. I think the point it's well raised, which I think it's finding expression. But the issue here is that maybe let's not use the amendment as a tool to take away our responsibility. It's not the case. We need to play our role as an oversight. But here the point was raised when we get the report from Auditor General on the process. That's where the concern was raised. And I think the commission was raising that concern. But there is nothing wrong for AG to continuously avail themselves as the partner on this noble role of playing an oversight to continuously give trainings. But the training must not take away the fact that the slow pace create more problems. And I think that's the issue that the commission has raised. Which I think it's I think we cover all the grounds, which the final round of applause. And we now go to topic number 5.
Topic number 5. Good. Delegates and members. Our task we are group 5, the topic. My name is Gift van Staven, the Northern Cape, and I'm the rapporteur. The topic, support to municipal oversight on financial management and accountability. On this slide of the area of focus, which I think we just want to emphasize the importance of taking or being aware the cooperative governance as defined in terms of Chapter 3, which emphasize distinctive, interdependent, and interrelated nature of the spheres of government. So whatever we decide to do, to be guided and to be sensitive on that matter. I think then the last one I think is important on the area of focus, is that APACs undertake and manage similar functions and responsibilities as undertaken by APACs and also national level. Then on the next slide, we have the deliberations. Just running down. There is a lack of understanding that impacts negatively on the effectiveness and efficiency of MPEX. The issue of dual membership, Section 79 committees and Section 18 committees. There must be a clear distinction. It's something that we should get and give clarity on. The issue of continuity when terms of office changes on the previous committees where I think we spoke about the institutional memory and transitional arrangements to ensure that the function remains alive within that particular institution. Then on the next slide, we mentioned the fact that understanding that public hearings can not only be held at provincial or national levels, but also municipal level. I think it's more important on local level. If we look at the landscape within our country nowadays, the uprisings, and it's a clear indication that there is a mismatch. There's a communication gap, and people are not taken along, local people, along the plans of the municipality. Might be, or that the municipality might respond to planning issues which are very sensitive for the local municipalities. So we are just highlighting that gap. I think the last one, the bullet point number 3, 4, work limited to annual report scrutiny instead of evaluating the risk management reports, the internal audit reports, the external audit committee reports. There's a number of instruments to be used to be proactively involved doing oversight in here. Then the next slide also just spells out the deliberations that APAC and NAMPAC should directly interact with municipalities that are in distress. But I think just to give context, we also said that coupled with this, there must be a proper coordination. There must be a proper coordination. I think we've learned about the accountability ecosystem. The one agent must know what the other agent is doing. And the status quo currently is that there are gaps. Everyone is just operating in a silo. So then the next one, I think the previous group alluded to it, is the resolution tracking and implementation. It remains an issue where we are weak on, and where, especially at local level, we should find ways to strengthen that. Critical coordination with MPEX, and then the last one is budget. Very important that MPEX is not regarded as an afterthought. It must be deliberately planned, budgeted before, because then we will get the results. We find that it comes as an afterthought, and then there is this excuse that there's no budget to actually be the important thing. I think one of the things that we have learned here and taking it away is you can't manage what you can't measure. And it boils down to that. Then the finding and recommendations, the Commission, having deliberated on the above mentioned, recommends that MPAC members should have the relevant skills and knowledge in financial management and accountability. I think it's a measure of continuous capacity building, because it's not a matter of you know enough in this area, updating and ensuring that you are clued up with the latest in this ecosystem. APAC should play a role in assisting MPEX to a common way of conducting oversight, standardized, probably on the level of the municipalities, starting with the districts, but there must be a standard so that whoever comes in and critique, saying that it's not one coming with his own experience and then another from another angle. It doesn't assist. And APAC should capacitate MPEC through trainings and advocate for the budget. Just the third bullet point, a responsive municipal executive willing to listen to and influence. I think what we are trying to emphasize is there needs to be a professional relationship which is really conducive and healthy for MPEC. This is your executive and able to ensure that you are effective. It's critical and it is complex, but that's something that we need to strive for. MPEC must have a unrestricted, coordinated access to internal documents. We are, however, wants to put a radar there to say that it must not be understood or misunderstood
that, anyone can get access to any documentation. It just emphasized there must be a agreed upon arrangement as to access specific documents. May I make this example? Not any member of APAC or APAC can run and demand a document, because then for what reason? Is it for the purpose of that structure, or is it for political purposes? So it needs to be managed also properly. APAC should manage institutions like provincial treasury, law enforcement agencies. I think it's the issue of collaboration that was stressed. SALGA need to lobby the changing of municipal standing rules and how APAC should operate. And then again, the issue of consequence management. There's no following through in general in the country on the issue of consequences and consequence management. And we believe that APAC should come up with some practical proposals so that we can make some progress in that regard. And then the NAMPAC should be re-established and become functional. And also the implementation of the council resolutions. It's again the issue of resolutions, tracking, and also measuring whether we are making progress. We only have meetings without end result. And the last thing that we want to do here also is Mrs. on predetermined outcome objectives, because it speaks to what people indicated in the IDP, what they want. And in the tactical arrangement, it's the predetermined objectives. So impacts or impacts in the main where the fire burns should emphasize on the matter of predetermined outcomes and measuring.
Thank you. Another round of applause. I see your hands. Hands up. APAC 1, AG. Is your hands up? Okay. AG. And see on this side. Okay. Yes, this side. Okay. 4. Okay, in that order.
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I think this area is our area of local government. First, we'd like to thank APAC for taking an interest in the matters of impact. I think it's greatly appreciated. Just when the presentation started, it talked about Chapter 3, that we are all 3 different spheres, 3 different sections. Therefore, but at the same time, we have one common goal, is to ensure that oversight matters we are delivering and we are holding executive into account. Now, we know that with the outcomes of the AG and also municipality starting now a new process, because we are in another cycle. Unlike yourself, maybe you are still in your cycle 2 years, we just started. So what is critical for us is to ensure that our impacts are established in each and every municipality. And then after that, is to ensure that the proper capacitation of each of these committees are capacitated, because now there are new members all over the country in these committees. And the issue of non-continuity. But what is important that we are pleading to APAC is that the collaboration between APAC and also the National Assembly. Because at times reports will come that municipalities, we are the, with all the audit outcomes, and then they will be tasked to appear in front of the National Assembly as well. And our challenge as MPACs, we try to advocate as NAMPAC to ensure that we have the same powers and functions. Unfortunately, we couldn't get all the functions. One of the critical ones, we are unable to summon executive to account in front. They either will send people or they will just not show up. So the collaboration becomes critical. That as yourself in APEC's National Assembly, you have the powers to summon and to ensure. So that collaborations become critical. So as also NAMPAC, as the body that will represent all the chairpersons, it will be able to take all the issues, and after that, then we are able to collaborate which ones are critical for the intervention and the collaboration. All I ask is that for now, is that we re-establish the NAMPAC, and then we ensure that all the critical areas that needs intervention, that we're going to be dealing with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. Your meeting is on. I wanted to just find some.
Northwest. That's why I'm saying any other person. Very presentation, however, there's a point that is very critical that is missing. The involvement of functional leadership. The leakings, policies, because of when we do public participation, I remember when I was doing public participation, I was supposed to go to host pay, then sit down with the chief, explain why I'm there, and also take policy between with the report. So I think we can't be traditional leadership in this process. They must be involved, they must be part of this process. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chair. Just one addition from my side in relation to public participation. The issue of petitions. I think that's the most critical aspect of public participation. For example, in the National Assembly, when you send a petition, you afford you the opportunity to come and present your case. Whatever affected department that you complain about gets invited. Prior to the meeting, they'll have to send a response presentation in response to the issues highlighted. That affords the portfolio committee an opportunity to make a follow-up. However, in most cases, public petition is an antagonistic approach. They see that as the community is against them. Yet it's trying to expedite and how elevate matters to the next level. So I think we need to also teach our community to make use of petitions and on the same breath teach ourselves as public representatives that petition does not mean you are fighting against each other as communities. View that as a way of helping to escalate and expedite the process of resolving the matters that are affecting the community. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Chair, I've just been wondering where to place the discussions that have been going on, thinking about it when dealing with the impacts package. I think it's probably more relevant here. In a way, it does complicate my life a little bit. Because one of the major stakeholders, particularly at the local government level, is the political parties. You look at the extent of its ability in terms to fund the high turnover rate of councillors, the list is endless. But also at the same time is the glaring of party and state, the challenge of interface and interference, that long women. And I raise this in this context. When Scope was here in KZN, there was the Umkanya matter, and we engaged with the then Premier, but also in his capacity as the chair, the political parties of the province, because the issues of political and they were having an impact on stability and on governance. So there were material effects in that space. The similar exercise was done when we were in the Eastern Cape. I think we were dealing with the Tambo district municipalities.
Yes.
We were engaged in public, but also in its capacity as the chair of the government branch. Now, I know it's a very fine line and where we need to tread very, very carefully. But I think to an extent, it is pointless to be a PAC and not engage in a way with the people who are responsible for the people who are political in the department. So I think it's a discussion we need to plan and find ways around it. But at the same time, we must not be seen to be venturing into political states. But we cannot ignore the fact that in the main, the heightened extent of instability at councils specifically, it does not presuppose that you don't get the challenges at legislature level and national assembly, but they are more pronounced in local government. And so with the emergence of these coalition governments, and so we're going to see the trend. And so what really becomes the problem is that the officials end up running municipalities. And they are not publicly accountable. When the community wants water, they don't go and march at the director of what services. They go to the council. And so you have got officials running councils without public accountability. And at the same time, you have got political instability, and we are not talking political parties. So I think the discussion we need to have is about how political parties are also responsible to playing a role in bringing about a semblance of stability in how they deploy and so on and so forth. But I just wanted to flag it, Chair, because in my mind I was going through to Magdalene, but I think before we leave, something that maybe ESCO can think about it, revise the modality as a guide in terms of how those interventions will take place. Because ultimately, all these other stakeholders don't deploy these people to council. It's political parties who will chop and change. And the fundamental question that they have to answer is, do they consider the material effect on governance and financial health of municipalities? Thanks, Chair.
No, it's a thought for another day. I think you can't entertain it now. I think the officers are taking that point. It needs to be looked on the repercussion of needs and maybe to end up encroaching in a space which will complicate APAC. But I think because it's raised here and discussed, thank you very much. There is nothing that you have to respond except to include other areas that have been raised. Can we give a round of applause? The pattern, the host, when the hosts come, you give a round of applause, and so the pattern, the message is here. Thank you very much. I think we have managed time. I will call the GS to the stage to give an announcement. After announcement, then we will close our session. Thank you.
Thank you. First, I want to speak on this about the AGM taking place tomorrow. It's not in this venue. It's at a hotel called the Edward Hotel. I'm told it's about 900 or so meters walk from here. There is transport arranged from here to there for those that need transport. You have to be outside the venue by 8 o'clock. The transport will take you to the hotel. It's number 149 Tambo Parade, South Beach, Durban. So it's just across. It's down the line. It's down the line. I don't know if it's happening. Yeah, so that way, we all about being we check out, and only go south, so that the implication is that you must bring the following documents, which is when you register with this document, which is the problem. So please bring it tomorrow, because the problem of the NGL is included on page 6. Secondly, we must bring this white report, which is just in distributed. It's the 2 annual reports for 2021 and 2022. You must also bring this report, is the financial report of its financial narrative report. So those are the 3 documents you must bring tomorrow. But we request that if you can go through them tonight, do so. The only difficulty is that because it's the AGM, only members have the right to vote. By members within the jurisdiction, there are 10 of them. It's the National Assembly, the National Assembly, National Assembly, the National Assembly, and the 9 provinces, provincial legislatures. And it's one jurisdiction, one vote. So which means if you've got anything you want us to vote on, engage your chairperson so that when you get there and decide to vote, your chairperson can vote on your behalf or whoever is it. Because when you say you have not voting the argument, it's only the first. The other thing I want to say is that we wanted to leave at 8 because we don't allow for registration. Because the AGM is something else, another meeting must do registration different. So we request that. The other matter I want to ask, you are requesting, this of the conference. So we didn't mind if we take intellectual delegations. But tomorrow is a big day. Please be presentable. I use the word presentable, but you all know what we don't have to. And then the last thing I need to say is that before that, I so wish this house was full of young people. Because by now, our social media platform would have all of you registered. We checked, it's only 11 on Twitter, and it's only 7 on Facebook. It's a bad reflection on us. The BBT. Yes. Look, it's not possible, but if you can do for us. Then there are the following other announcements I want to make. At 1400 hours, now it's 2 o'clock exactly. We request all the support staff from the jurisdictions to gather in this room at 2 o'clock. It's for a 15-minute meeting. Then at 2:30, we request all the councillors who are here. This time it doesn't matter where from the local municipality or district or region to come to this room together with the chairpersons or those that they delegates from each jurisdiction except national. There's a reason why, because we want to talk about provincial coordination, so we don't have to come as national party time again. Come to us. So that's why the question. That will be at 3:30. Check, those are the announcements. That's
Now, on behalf of the collective, okay, unless you want us to proceed, I will wait for you to be to listen to the closing, not the closing remark, but the thank you. But I hear you making noise. Maybe you want us to proceed with the meeting. On behalf of the collective office bearers representing EXCO, we want to thank all of you but we want to start by thanking the representative from jurisdictions from the first day when office bearers started to ask for support staff to develop all these documents, the discussion documents. We want to thank facilitators who facilitate through these documents in their respective commissions. And thank yourself for robustness on making sure that you bring this APAC. Thank you very much and thank your cooperation to the chair of the session, borrowed this session from this morning till now. And thank everyone, and you are invited to lunch this conference center until the AGM. Thank you very much.